So when somebody makes a meaningful change and they're close to you, it can genuinely feel like they're forcing you into change. And they're not. They're just changing themselves. Hi everyone, it's me, Mark Matthews, psychologist and your certified high performance coach. Today, we're going to wrap up the mini-series on how to feel authentic. In this part of the mini-series, the fourth and final video, we're going to talk about the dark side of authenticity. What happens when the value of authenticity, the desire to live an authentic life experience, goes rogue and becomes something that we use to judge other people harshly and then ultimately inhibit ourselves from being able to become who we really want to be. What we're going to talk about today is hypocrisy, an anti-value that comes from our desire to live an authentic life. And if you haven't yet, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I know it might seem like a small thing, but it really helps us get this channel off the ground and get this content to people who may have never been exposed to these things before. And ultimately, it could change their life. It could help them get on a direction that's actually going to pull them outside of pain and put them on a path that's more meaningful and more fulfilling. That's why we're doing this. And so please definitely subscribe to this channel and drop something in the comments. Have you learned anything? Have you thought about something a little bit differently? Are you just excited to live more of an authentic life? As your coach, I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to push you to really think about the ways that you inhibit yourself and other people from experiencing authenticity. You see, the reason we don't make the changes we want to make in our life, a lot of times comes down to barriers that we don't even know are there. And once we identify what those barriers are, we can make small shifts in our behavior, small shifts in our thinking that allow us to much more easily live the life that we're trying to live. A life full of vibrancy, joy, confidence, and engagement. A life full of presence and meaning and purpose. And that's totally possible for you and everybody around you. So today, I want to give you the kind of challenge that will allow you to actually bring that forth in your life. This is the fourth and final video in our mini-series on how to feel authentic. If you haven't yet watched the other videos, go ahead and pause this video, click this link right here to a playlist on all the other videos in this series so that you can experience the full benefit of this mini-series. Now, we're going to talk about one of the biggest limiting factors for our ability to live an authentic life experience, for our ability to change, grow, transform, even break through to become the people that we really want to be. And that limiting factor is the anti-value hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is just the judgment that we make towards any person where we say, I don't think you're acting the way that you should be. I don't think you're acting like yourself. A lot of times we see people as hypocrites when they are espousing to live or believe a certain thing, and then they act completely inconsistent with how they profess they should be living their life. The funny thing is that everybody acts inconsistent with how they think they should be living their life. It's very difficult to be aspirational and to step into courageous moral values or align yourself with an ideal that really lights a fire in your soul and makes you want to become that person. It's so difficult because when we start to say, I want to become a person like that, I want to be great, I want to embody excellence, I want to really propel myself forth into the person I genuinely want to be, that creates an expectation. You see, when we start creating expectations about ourselves, people start to judge us accordingly. And in this video, I'm going to challenge you to think about the ways you might be judging other people according to the expectations that you have for them or that you think they have for themselves. When we make these judgments, it's really simple. It's just that doesn't seem like you judgment that we might profess or even we might communicate unconsciously. When people are talking about a change they're making in their life, a new workout program that they're doing or a new book that they're reading or a new YouTube video that they watched that really inspired them, they might not just be talking about that video or book or program because they think it's interesting. They might be talking about it because that's actually aligned with who they want to become. They're actually trying to share something deep and intimate with you. But we don't often just jump into conversation and say, hey, I really want to become this amazing person who does X, Y, or Z thing. We say, hey, I started a new workout program actually. Or, I started going to this meditation class or using this meditation app. And now a lot of times what can happen is we can start to make judgments about them. And it's really just, that seems different for that person. That's what pops into our mind. We might communicate that in a way that's like, oh, really? We might be like, that seems kind of cool. Like, it's just not having enthusiasm for people when they're trying to make change can signal a level of judgment. Sometimes when people are trying to make big changes in their life, we can actually judge them quite harshly. We can actually get annoyed with them. There's Mark again, making these big changes in his life, talking about change all the time, how he's going to be X, Y, or Z, a big YouTuber now, And sometimes that can actually irritate us. In fact, it's natural for it to irritate us. Because what's happening is it's actually pulling on the basic foundation of what makes us human, which is to understand our world. That's why we evolved these amazing brains, is to understand the world around us. And so when someone decides to change, that actually can hit a nerve. It can hit a nerve positively, and we can be excited, like, that's amazing. You're getting ready to bring forth your potential. I want to support you. Or it can hit a nerve that just says, oh, that's different. If you remember in part 2 of this mini-series, we talked about the motivation to be consistent, self-verification. And we have that same motivation for the world around us. We want to stabilize the world and keep it very consistent so that we know how to navigate it. So when people are changing around us, it can actually be very overwhelming. And there's a lot of reasons why that can be the case, but it does not have to be that way. And now I'm going to say, I think it's likely that almost everybody has problems with some of the changes that are happening around them. But if you can get an understanding of why that's happening, you can start to show up differently when people are trying to make change. You can actually become someone who's a catalyst for change. Someone who can really authentically support people to become who they want to be, or even to reinterpret who they've been in the past. When you give people that space, that is powerful. That's a level of connection and support that allows you to really be influential in their life. You could be the type of person, just by being supportive when people are undergoing these types of changes, that actually really makes a difference in the lives of the people around you. And ironically, you signal to yourself that it's okay for you to undergo those types of changes too. You see, when we stop being judgmental and we stop critiquing people for making changes or reinterpreting their past, or even just intentionally engaging with life, then we give ourselves permission to do the exact same thing. We create a community of people who are able to authentically connect with their life and who are able to meaningfully derive the values of their past, but also shed off the regrets that they have and propel themselves forward into the next version of themselves. Now, in this video, I want to be sure that you know some of the underlying reasons why you might not be supporting people as much as you think you are, why you might be showing up in specific situations and actually decreasing the likelihood that your friends or your family or your loved ones are going to make changes to their life. And these are completely normal reasons that underlie why we inhibit change for those around us. So let's dive in. The first reason why we might be uncomfortable when other people are trying to change around us is simply a fear of loss. We see this in romantic relationships where someone makes a big change in health, and sometimes their partner gets a little bit insecure because they're afraid that that change in health is going to lead to a change in relationship as well. And so instead of being encouraging and supporting, you might end up actually being a little bit dismissive or avoidant of your partner while they're trying to make change. And this isn't because you want to inhibit change for your partner. It's just that we have a natural tendency to try to hold on to the things that we have in our lives. We want to keep the important people in our lives because we love them. We also want to keep consistent the life that we're living because we probably enjoy it to some extent. And so a good example of this is just when a friend decides maybe they're going to quit drinking alcohol. I've been in college for about 10 years now. I did an undergraduate degree and now I've done multiple graduate degrees. And so I spend a lot of time around college students. And what I can tell you is when college students who've been in circles where they drink on the weekends and they go out and party, if a college student decides that they want to get away from that, it can actually be extremely distressing to their friends because it feels like they might be losing their friend. They might be, at minimum, losing the opportunity to connect with their friend in a way that they've already felt comfortable connecting. See, that change becomes disruptive, and we can get really afraid that we're going to lose something important there. And so sometimes we just become dismissive or avoidant of helping people who are trying to change in our lives just out of that fear. A second reason why we might be uncomfortable with other people changing around us is because of social comparison. So we're not just afraid of losing someone when they start to make life change, but also we're afraid that, we're going to feel a little bit worse about ourselves. If you're in a circle of friends that is pretty sedentary, not living too much of an active lifestyle, and then one friend decides to get really healthy, really fit, maybe joins a gym, starts getting some new gym friends. If you have a value of being healthier that you haven't connected with yet, you can fall into the trap of thinking, well, I'm not good enough every time you see your friend making change. You actually start to focus on yourself and start to feel inadequate because someone around you is improving. Or maybe you've connected with somebody based on mutual trauma in the past, or being victimized by a similar situation, or by identifying with a certain group. And that person starts to reinterpret their life story. They start to reinterpret their past, maybe uplift themselves out of that kind of victimhood that they've been living in. And they start to reinterpret it. Now, I'm not saying that's good or bad, but for you, if you've connected with that person on the basis of that past story, you might start thinking that your interpretation of your past story is wrong. Or you should have a different interpretation of, what happened in your life. That's not how you should be thinking about it. The way that they interpret their story, that's up to them. And you're allowed to interpret your story the way that is consistent for you. But when we fall into the comparison of stories, even in the past, that can make us feel really uncomfortable. And it can start to feel like they're threatening our way of living, our authenticity. When we start to feel like we're being threatened, when someone close to us starts to make change, that leads to reason number 3, which is that when they make change, you actually feel like they are changing you. In psychology, we recognize that we tend to actually incorporate other people into our sense of our identity. It's not actually clear that who we are is separate from the people that we surround ourselves with. We call this self-expansion. You expand your sense of who you are by incorporating other people into that sense of who you are. So when somebody makes a meaningful change and they're close to you, it can genuinely feel like they're forcing you into change. And they're not. But if you're not clear in an understanding about that relationship, that, they are a part of you, you might start to feel like you're doing something to me. You're making me different. But because you're a human and we're a very social species, you tend to incorporate people who are close to you into who you are. And so it actually feels like they're changing you, even though they're not. Okay. Now that we've walked through those 3 reasons why we might be uncomfortable with other people changing around us, can you start to see how when we experience that discomfort, we might actually start to judge that other person? Even though we don't want to, even though we think maybe we shouldn't be judging someone for wanting to make meaningful changes in their life or for connecting in a new way to their past, we can judge them. And that judgment just might be an irritation. But it's important to be able to identify that that's happening and do something to change the way we show up, to create a community where we can actually experience authenticity much more often. And so, the secret to being able to release these pain points that come, this discomfort that we experience when other people are making change, is to actually stop turning inward and start turning outward. You see, what's happening for all of these different reasons is that we're so focused on ourselves that we're scared. We're afraid something's happening to us. We feel like a victim of other people's choices. And in reality, that's not true. If people are making genuine, authentic change, they're just growing. They're just engaging a normal part of the human experience. And if we're being honest, if you're a friend that constantly feels like, everything's about you in a relationship, that's probably an indication that you might want to do some self-work. There needs to be space for everybody to live out their full authentic life experience. There needs to be room for everybody to become the people that they want to become. And we can certainly guide people. If we see a friend going down a path that's not great, we're pretty sure that will hurt them. It's not actually consistent with their values. Yeah, have an honest conversation. But if they're just trying to lose 30 pounds and try on a new workout program or start up a meditation course, it's like, hey, it's probably not going to hurt them. Give them that full room and encouragement to grow. And the way you do that is you actually stop looking at yourself and you start saying, how could I help you make that change? You want to keep your friends around? You want to have a deep, authentic connection? Start helping them become who they want to be. They tell you about, I'm starting this new program, or I'm hiring a coach, or I'm doing X, Y, or Z thing. Say, wow, good for you. Is there anything I can do to support you? Thanks for telling me about that. Thanks for sharing something that matters to you with me. You see, the challenge in authenticity is to actually focus a lot less on ourselves and focus a lot more on the experience in front of us. Focus a lot more on the people in front of us. You see, when you get clear about where you're going, you don't have to constantly reevaluate yourself. You don't have to constantly look around and ask, is this for me? You can be fully immersed in the process of navigating your life's journey. All right. So to wrap up this mini-series, I am excited for you to go live an authentic life. Have I challenged you today? If I have, please write a comment. Tell me what challenged you. Do you have a desire to show up better in the lives of people around you so that you can meaningfully connect with the path that you're on? Go ahead and just put it down below. Put it down below what you want to do. Who do you want to help? Tell me. I want to be a better romantic partner. Just make that declaration. I want to be a better friend. I deeply honor you for being here, for even contemplating this mini-series on authenticity, for thinking about how you might be able to show up to life a little bit better and have a higher quality of life experience, but also how you can provide that for other people. I love you, and I'm glad that you're part of this community, or at least engaging with this community in some way. And I can't wait to see you in the rest of these videos and on this journey.